Hello, Sangha. This is Mikey speaking. I was not able to be present for the recording of this call, and there ended up being a few issues with the recording. It's not easy to hear or understand what is being said by Dhammarato. So we decided we're going to go ahead and upload this recording anyways. You may need to raise the volume or listen to this in a very quiet environment. With that out of the way, enjoy the call.
All right. So today is the 27th of December. The year is almost finished, and it's 9 a.m. And today we're going to be talking about right livelihood. Now, if you'll notice, the video here is different. Mikey normally helps me get to it out on the porch, but now I'm doing it. I think everybody knows fakes I'm giving out. They've been good for about 80 years. We don't. So today, let's talk about right livelihood. And the first and most important to say about right livelihood is that it does not belong with rules or precepts. The livelihood has to be done only with one's own wisdom. Now we have some, let us say, some guidelines with that. Basically, one has to choose for himself. Now there are a number of professions that we could say, because they inherently harm people, we would automatically assume through a bit of investigation, because the profession or the job itself has to do with harming other people, that you yourself would probably not want to have that job as right livelihood. So, what I used earlier, before the video recorder came on, would be to compare an army general with a cook whose job is to peel potatoes, and which one is having much more likely to have right livelihood. But the answer is that the cook is not going to stay potato peeler for very long. That in fact they do a lot of rotation, and the next thing you know, that kid's going to have a gun in his hand instead. So, and it depends upon the armies. Some armies have, let us say, pay billets or particular places for them. But in the Russian army, the cook is much more likely to get a gun tomorrow than he is to be peeling potatoes tomorrow. So, in that regard, staying away from the military altogether may be the right thing to do. Now, in the Anguttara Nikaya, in the I think it's in the fives, it actually has 5 professions that automatically have wrong livelihood. And the first one at the top of the list is dealing with weapons. Another one would be dealing with any form of uh, human trafficking, white slavery, or any kind of slavery, or in fact, even bosses in factories misuse and mistreat employees. In fact, that's very common in the United States. Keeping the salaries low, so people need that job. If people were properly paid, they could leave that job easily, go live for a couple of years, and then go back and have another high paying job and live easy again. But the way that the whole system is set up is abuse with a kind of slavery or indentured servitude. Another form would be with Another way we could put that with animals also. But the third one then would be actually dealing with meat in any form. Now, in Thailand, we would say that if the neighbor brought a covered dish over to the house that had meat in it, then that would not be considered wrong livelihood. Restaurateurs and people who are serving food, cooking food for others, dealing with meat in the marketplace, uh, cutting big pieces of meat, abattoir. The word abattoir, by the way, is would be a meat factory. Or it depends upon even the farmers who raise their animals for slaughter would be not right. And that you could say then that the 10-year-old daughter of that farmer, that's wrong livelihood when daddy takes her favorite piglet and slaughters it. I have another story about that. And this story is that in the Jewish tradition, they have certain, a kind of a rabbi who uses a particular kind of knife in a particular way so that the meat becomes kosher. And the situation is that there's this lamb that comes to the slaughter place, and the rabbi looks directly in the face of this lamb, and suddenly he realizes that what he's about to do is wrong, to kill that lamb. And so he puts down that knife, and if it really gets him, he's going to get rid of that knife and stop doing that profession. So dealing with meat, that would be the third one. The fourth one would be dealing with intoxicants, drug runners, alcohol, things like this. Now, here's a really interesting position because I've got a student who was in this, and that is that he was a bartender, but his job as a bartender was much more of dealing with, um, you could say, the drunks that are sitting at the bar. And so he wound up being more of a psychologist than a barkeep. Now, a barkeep, his job is to sell whiskey, sell booze. But a good bartender is going to be there to be the psychotherapist that the drunk would never go to. So now we've got to think about that. Would that be, and if you were in that bar kitchen, would you in fact have that in mind? My job here is to take care of people, not sell booze. The last one would be dealing with poisons. And that the question then would be, well, what about the farmers who put out pesticides? Could we not, in fact, have a whole system to where we insects and plants in harmony with each other, having, let us say, a large collection of ladybugs so that the aphids and whatnot don't eat all of our crops. But if we automatically go and just poison everything, that's out of greed. So those are the five. And then they contact them again. Um, Slavery of any sort, dealing with meat, dealing with alcohol, and dealing with poison. All of those have kind of some. This is why it's a part of wisdom. It's not really precepts, thou shalt not, but rather look at what you're doing. And so it's always a point of wisdom. And if we uh, can look at that, we can say, well, wait a minute, there's a whole lot of places that deal with weapons. Not just weapons in the sense of being a gun runner, but in a gun store, or being the sheriff, or being any police officer that's armed. But you can take that a little bit further. Is that what happens with the people that the cops nab? Is they take them to detectives and prosecutors, and then ultimately judges, and then prisons and prison wards. All that entire profession has to do with using weapons, and so any of it and all of it would be uh, right livelihood. Now we begin to say, well, what is livelihood? It's correct. And the answer to that is maybe not much, but we have to decide that for ourselves. And that there are some guides that are in other sutras. One of them is about buying and selling. So a merchant would not be right livelihood if he buys over here to sell over there, or marketing. Why is that not right livelihood? Is because it always has deception, it has lying, it has covering up, it's a profit motive, and all of that. So now let's look at something that would be considered livelihood. In Sutta number 81, the Sikara Sutta, Gosikara was a potter, and that what he would do to get his mud, when he would go to the riverbank where otters and rats and snakes and whatnot had dug holes and their mud out of the hole so that he would just pick it up. In other words, he didn't even dig. He just gathered mud that the animals had placed for him. And so he'd go up and down the riverbank and get enough mud for the day. And he would make pottery out of it. Now, the sutra doesn't talk about him having a pottery wheel or a kiln or any of that kind of stuff. So we assume that he hand shaped the pottery and just let it dry in the sun. So it's not going to be permanent. And then um, he had a sign, and the sign said, um, take what you need and pay what you want to pay for it. Pay what you think it's worth. And uses that as an example of right livelihood because it shows that he, in fact, was not so greedy as to have a really huge pottery store because he wouldn't dig for the mud. He'd only collect it from the animals that had and that some of you would say, well, if he did that, somebody in the town is going to go to his house and take pottery and pay nothing for it and open up a shop. I think everybody in town would know what that was all about. I don't think they do that more than once or twice. But he was um, operating with the position that everything is already okay and that I'll get enough money. And by the way, um, the story is that he had either a mother or he had uh, two parents, both of them are blind, and that he cared for his mother and father with the little bit of income that he received from being a potter. So I asked maybe Ivan. Ivan, what do you think about uh, Gotikara?
Loki Kara? Sorry, I don't. Can you say that again?
Gotikara was a potter who took
Oh,
the who took off the riverbank where animals had dug it up. So he didn't dig. He made pottery, and then he set it out for sale with a sign saying, "Take what you need and pay what it's worth." So he
oh
didn't
yeah,
do
I
it.
heard of that. Yeah, yeah, I remember that one. Yeah. What do I think? I don't know. Like, I think that's really awesome. I couldn't do that.
You can't do. Why not?
Well,
Don't you
it's
also
hard
have
to.
the where your
Yeah,
boss
go ahead.
pays you what he wants to pay you?
No, I mean that requires a lot of like, like, hey, just take what you want and pay whatever you feel like. I don't know, like for a lay person, like how sustainable that will be.
He was a layperson.
I know, I know. I'm just speaking like from my experience here, the way I see it. Like for me,
In other words, what you're saying, Ivan, is you don't have the trust to do that. It'll be
yes,
okay
I don't.
already. You don't even, okay. So take that as a point. So, Eric, what do you think? Do you
I
have
think
the trust in reality that you can manage when people only give you what they want to give you?
only if I have a good cushion already, a good money cushion.
Pardon?
Only if I had a good cushion already to not depend on the next day. But
When you
I've
take
thought of doing things like that with activities I like. For example, I like doing ice baths and offering that as to people as voluntary donation, but because I don't need the money. If I had to sustain a family, I wouldn't have the trust either.
hmm Mr. Dan, Potato is breaking up. Can you repeat what he said? Maybe I can hear you better.
Yeah, he said if he had a cushion, like a financial cushion, then it would be okay. Like if he had money saved up that would, as a sort of backup in case.
I like that
Um,
idea. Absolutely. That's an excellent way of looking at it, which means then that when you do have income, you don't spend it. You keep it as a cushion, not in the sense of gathering up wealth, but rather just having an easy cushion. So I like that, Potato. Let's have an easy cushion so that we don't live day to day. And yet, look how many people in America they say live from what they call paycheck to paycheck. Wouldn't it be wise for those people to stop living paycheck to paycheck and stop spending all of the money in that paycheck and start building up a bit of a cushion? What they talk about is having money for a rainy day. That's very wise. Thanks for mentioning it. So, Ben, what do you think?
I think yeah, I think it would be situational. It would be dependent on the situation. Like in the example, the guy who was a potter was supporting his parents who were old or sick. Maybe they lived somewhere rural. Maybe they had a little hut or a house or whatever that they lived in. Sort of living costs probably weren't that high. Whereas if you live in a big modern city and you've got expensive you've got rent to pay and bills to pay and all that stuff, then I think the application of the model of I'm just going to make a few pots with some mud and then see what people want to pay me for them might not be as applicable an idea.
Yes, yes. Maybe, in fact, Kotakara actually lived in a hovel. He was a poor man. It didn't say. It just said his house. But what we know from other sutras is having just adequate housing. And yet, especially the United States, they don't build adequate housing. They build mansions. And you got to pay for it, hundreds and thousands of dollars. When in fact a house maybe $7,000 or $8,000, depends upon where you put it. And a lot of people are going in that direction to have cheap housing rather than living in a mansion and having high rent to pay. Allow us then to have that cushion that Eric is about.
Yeah, I mean, even here in Hanoi, over the past 3 years, apartment prices have gone up by 400%. So your average like little studio apartment, like a basic bottom of the ladder apartment, is like a few $100,000 now, which is crazy money. But yeah, I agree. If you had a home sort of paid off, so expenses weren't that high, then that sort of model might be more easily doable in terms of not sort of needing so much income.
So, right livelihood then has a whole lot to do with frugality, rather than having a big mansion with big expenses and then having to get big money, worrying big money so that you can pay big expenses. It's better to live easy, to live cheap. That before I became a monk, when I was living in Thailand, I actually lived for years in India and in Thailand, really, really cheap. What back then we called Dhamma phones. And most of the places that I lived was in ashrams and um, Watts in places like that. Wat Thaibo Jaya. I stayed there for nearly a year. And so there's a lot of places that you can live for free, and you don't have to be ordained. You just, kind of stay there, kind of move in. Eventually, the abbot will give you a room, but until he does, you sleep on the floor. But Hanoi, I can see, but it's quite a big city now. The economy is changing there. Maybe it's time to move out of town into the suburbs or into the countryside, because land is always, especially in places like Thailand and um, the land, the housing much cheaper.
Yeah.
So, Christina, what do you have to say?
It sounds like I've joined in an interesting talk about wanting maybe more than we need.
This is why I'm talking about it as a point of wisdom. This is not a set of rules. This is not precepts. This is you figuring out for you what to do to have a happy life.
Yeah. There's a thought experiment that sometimes, if you had $1 million or if you had all the money in the world, what would you do? And it's supposed to help people sort through what kind of career path they want if money wasn't an object.
Well,
I
money
don't know
is
if
not an
that's a
object.
use.
Money
Yeah.
is an object. So, what can you do then with the money that you have? Because it's not the money itself, is how do you feel about it? Do you feel wealthy? But in fact, this is part of the Dhamma that I've you probably heard me teach, so I don't teach. And that is that when we feel safe, secure, and comfortable and satisfied, that section grows into feeling successful. And that feeling of being successful goes into the feeling of being wealthy. So cultivate, dude, that you're a wealthy lady.
Mm.
That in fact, this is what generosity is based upon. Poor people in skin plants and cheap Charlies are not generous because they need the money. But if you have the attitude of being wealthy, then it's nothing. Yeah, okay, my brother comes and he wants $500 here. Sure, I can give him 50 baht. Actually, that's supposed to be about $1,700. But in case, somebody needs something, be wealthy enough so that you can help the people that you know. Now, having all the money in the world is, who did you take it from?
Mhm.
Having all the money in the world sounds like the worst part of all of the wrong livelihoods. You say you had to steal money from 7 or 8 billion people. So let's look at them having all the money in the world, which is just a concept, and let's take it into the concept of feeling wealthy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's
Perhaps
good to
it's
flip the perspective that way. To start with the cup full or fulfilled. I don't know. It's just interesting to point it the other way.
Yeah, become wealthy in your mind state. You got plenty of money. Then, in fact, I actually missed Mikey coming to borrow money because now he's got a work visa and he's working at a school. He's been going to that same school first as a student, then as a computer janitor, and now he's actually teaching classes. And the downside of that is he doesn't come make money from me anymore. But when he did, I'd always give him 1,000 baht. Always, sure, here's 1,000 baht, take. So always be generous with your friends. Be generous with people.
Yeah.
Now, people would say, well, where did Dhammarato get all that money? The answer is Social Security. That's in fact a kind of right livelihood. Why? Because I just take it from the government. They give it to me. I sometimes have to jump through some hoops or what things, send papers and whatnot. But generally, the money just shows up. And all I have to do is not spend it.
Well, that's the practice too, because not,
Yeah,
you know,
don't
when you
spend
do
it.
have right, right, yeah.
So then,
Actually, Errol and I were talking about that earlier today. I just told him to join
Mhm.
about having all
So,
the money in the world and what would you do, but that's not the way to look at it.
well, you probably have more money than you need, but your mentality started off when you were a child. You see, every child, except for some who are in a position of knowing that they're going to inherit great wealth because if daddy's got so much money, that means that he's spending all of his time with his money and not with you as a child. So rich daddy is a curse. because he cares more about his money than he does his children. But if you have a parent who really cares about you, they're probably money grubbing. And so you get in the money grubbing habit because you got that money grubbing habit from mommy and daddy. And you still have, no matter how much money now you have, Christina, you still got that money grubbing habit. There's never enough. In fact, I bet you could live happily on half the money that you earn. With the other half, in potatoes sack.
But Dhammarato, there's a plan. The plan is you get the money, and then you move to Thailand, and you buy a hut.
Oh, that's my plan.
No, that's the plan.
Actually, it wasn't my plan, it was Tam's plan. And some of that Social Security money that had piled up. And we now have a 3-bedroom, a 3-unit apartment. One has 2 bedrooms and 8 bedrooms each. And the rent from that will take care of her and Kitty and me for the rest of my life. So I don't even need the Social Security anymore because we've got property now. But we built the house. When I say build the house, I'm talking about we got the land and then we started. Actually, once cousin came down and actually did the building. So we did that on the cheap, but he did a really good job. So there's ways to
Dhammarato, you don't even handle it. Tam handles the money. You don't even handle the money. Tam handles the money.
That's right. I don't handle the money. When she would loan, a long time ago, we had a loan of 150,000 baht. The guy paid it back 10,000 baht a month, and she would put that in the wallet. And that wallet then is what I would give money to Mikey for all of his living expenses. But now that loan has been paid off, I don't have any money at all. I think there's like 200 baht in my billfold, and I haven't seen any real money in probably 2 years. She does it all. Which, by the way, that's also in the sutras for a man to just let his wife have the money. Just give it all to her. Why? Because she's unlikely to spend it on things you don't need the way that you would. You have to be careful not to have a wife that's a shopaholic so that she buys all the stuff she wants. Or rather, together, we can be frugal. So, Ivan, what do you have to say?
Nothing to say. I agree. I've been reflecting on it while you guys are talking. Yeah.
Yeah, we can go back to about money. Don't worry, be happy. Don't spend any money, and you're happy. So, Edward W., what do you think?
Also reflecting, it is a topic that I reflect on, and I guess the focus is for me that where does the lifestyle go? Where will my lifestyle go if I let the livelihood go in the direction of giving the pottery away for whatever people want to give? So yeah, the lifestyle has to match that. I live in I rent in an expensive city. I have a job that, It's definitely not set up like the Potter, but if you arrange a lifestyle over time where you could do something like that, I also reflect on Dhammarato. I don't remember the last time you asked for money for all these teaching services. Somewhere deep, maybe on the Open Sangha Foundation website with multiple clicks, you might see something about Dana. But look at what you've done with all the quote unquote services you've provided. So, for Mr. Ben, for you to say it's not feasible, I understand that too, but that's from the perspective of having a lot of expenses and an expensive lifestyle. But if you're more free with where the lifestyle might go, then you can set up shop and you can teach hundreds and hundreds of people for free in a manner that other people, they get paid a lot of money for what Dhammarato has done. He sits and he teleworks, the Dhammarato quote unquote teleworks, and people are charging a high fee, but people give him, I guess, whatever they want to give in return. So that's what I reflect on. Is where can my lifestyle head such that I might be able to provide whatever services I provide in a manner that's more here, have the services, and let me have something in return if you feel it's worthy of that.
Well, let me answer you on that. First off, the Open Sangha Foundation does have a place for people to go, but actually, from the very beginning, we've had enough money, Open Sangha Foundation, to take care of all the little expenses of a website. For instance, the provider, some of the plugins that we've purchased, and other things like that. But that's the only money kind of thing that we have. And it's certainly not enough money, just the same amount. In fact, it's been sitting there is about $3,500. And that's been, I mean, we'll go for years, I think, with just a few donations from time to time to keep the going. So there's nothing to it. Easy peasy. Not trying to make any money off of the website, just trying to keep it going. The other point about not charging, I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. So who do we have left here? What do you have to say?
Me, did you say Trevor?
Yes, I said Trevor. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot. Just right livelihood and how it kind of motivates how I found my career path and everything like that. Like I've mainly been reflecting on what is wrong livelihood and what has negative effects, like socially or environmentally, and it's like after getting out of college, I kind of really avoided getting basically the same reasons, like and I eventually found myself working in teaching for just adults with developmental disabilities, and I found it a lot more rewarding, even though it doesn't. The pay isn't, really that high, but I have found that when you trust kind of in, I don't know if you trust if I exactly trusted in myself, but more like trusted in the general situation of things work out. But I think it did eventually. Like I have a pretty stable thing, and I think it's kind of because like I made the right choice there.
Okay. What I would have to say about that is that it's one of each individual, but the way to look at it is does your livelihood, can you have your livelihood set up so that it doesn't cause you or anybody else any dukkha, any dissatisfaction? So if you are dissatisfied with your job, why are you there? But if
Mm.
you are satisfied with your job, now it's time to look at, does this job cause harm anywhere? It's possible,
Mm.
I suppose, that a policeman could be satisfied with his job, but it's probably not possible for to not harm anybody. I have heard this situation where uh, cops, even in the age, says they never drew their gun. They never used handcuffs, that they were able to do the job of the policeman without ever harassing anybody, pulling anybody over. That's basically the
Mm.
way that the cops in Thailand operate. So whatever job that you have, make it easy on the people that you have your job with. And things that I would generally advise for everybody is, instead of being a very good employee, doing a very good job, merit system like, my recommendation would be best with your immediate boss and his boss. Be best friends with your boss. He'll get away with anything if you're his best friend. But most of them don't have best friends. Most of the bosses have competitors below them and above them. And so being good friends with your boss is always a good idea. That way you don't cause him any grief and he doesn't cause you any grief either. Alex, hello, friend.
Hello, Dhammarato. How are you?
Well, I'm taking it easy. I didn't make it out to the
Good.
port.
Good. Glad to see you're taking it easy. Oh,
So, are you going to go to Antarctica?
not sure yet. I actually started doing what we're talking about. I got friends that are out there and they're looking for different things to be done with small businesses they have and such. And so through word of mouth, I just hear what they want done and then let them pay what they want to pay right now. And it appears to be working out pretty well for me because I have good friends. I'm not concerned about whether or not they're going to pay me or whether they'll pay me too little or too much or anything like that. I know that they'll pay what they see fit to pay for, what it is that I provide them and whatnot. And I'm quite happy with that arrangement.
Wow, you sound like a potter.
Yeah. It's almost like they wrote it down for a reason.
All right. So, last thing, let's change the topic slightly, going actually kind of close to what Edward was talking about. And that is, let's look at Western Buddhism in the guise of what is right livelihood. Now, there are retreats at a fixed price. Then most of them go to a second level, and that is a fixed price, but they also have scholarships and discounts. And then the third model is the model of separating it out, like the teacher doesn't work at or for the retreat center, and so center charges money, room, and board for the retreat. And then the teacher has Donna. Uh, the first kind is the way that they do it in Thailand and also in all of the Western Buddhist Wats and that I've been to. the way that they do it is that they do have a donation box, but you're probably going to have to go look for it or ask somebody where. But the monks do not solicit money. And then the last one is where somebody is teaching the Dhamma, spreading the Dhamma, but refuses to Nikor. Now, let's go back to the first one. And that is the way that it's most business, and that would be Jack Cornfield, Joseph Goldstein at Spirit Rock, and um, the Berry Center in Massachusetts, and also Berry Center owns Wisdom Publication. And they're in business. They are in the business of the Dhamma. Bhikkhu Buddhadasa is directly against that. In many places in the teaching, it says that the Dhamma is priceless. It cannot be sold. That in fact, if they're selling Dhamma, it winds up being like, let us say, spoiled meat. It's not worth having. And yet, this is what you'll find with most of the retreat centers. Now, the model of the room and board is charged for, but the teacher wants teacher Donna. To be honest with you, at one time I was very proud of being able to give a Donna talk, so that we could solicit and get some money in. Talk all about this and that and what is anything, and everybody's saying, yeah, we'll pay you some money. But I don't do that anymore. But the Donna talk is almost always at the end. Now, there's a special case of Goenka. I don't know if any of you have done a Goenka retreat, but the way that they say it is new students are free of charge, but only old students have to pay, except that the last day of the retreat, something happens and magically all the new students are now to the end of the old students, and they have to pay to get out of the retreat. It's almost charlatan. My uncle, the story when I was young, and the story that he told me always reminded me of the Goenka retreats. And that is that it was he went to a county fair where they had a tent set up that had all kinds of things that you could go look at inside the tent, and it had admission. And the problem is that you couldn't get out of there without paying a nickel. You could get in for free, but you couldn't get out. And my uncle says what he did is he had a pocket knife, a bend knife, and he cut that tent and he made his own exit. And he didn't pay the nickel. Well, what do you think about Goenka's retreats doing it that way? It sounds like that's right livelihood at all. To say that the first retreat's free, but that first retreat, once you've taken it, now you owe for it. The summaries at the Watts is much better, to where they don't talk about money at all. I've never heard all the Watts that I've been to, especially at Watsu and Moke. Nobody, I don't even know that I lived at Watsu and Moke for years, and I don't know where the poor box was. I don't know where it was. I knew where the one was in Greensboro, but the one at Greensboro was hidden behind many of the Buddha statues. You had to know where it was in order to be able to put money in it. And when I started doing retreats there, I told the people if they wanted to make a donation that they could put money in the box. Well, guess what? When we went to open the box, Achan Mahasamsa, he didn't know where the key was. We had to break into the box. It had been so long since he had opened that box that he didn't even know how to open it. So we had to break the lock. And so this is the way that normally done. Uh, and that in America, I know, but I can also see that enough in Watch Sew and Milk that all of these Watch have uh, patrons or donors. Now, what that means is that there's going to be a young man who was a monk for a couple of years, and then he went back to his family and worked in their family business, but he was always at the Wat. That he cared enough about the Wat that he was making sure that the Wat was taken care of. Wat Suan Milk has donors, some of them live in Bangkok. And they're going to make sure that that Wat has everything that it needs. And so nobody has ever asked for any money at all because the generosity has been built in for years and years. What I do it is that I don't take money. What I do instead is talk about the duty to the Dhamma. That once you have learned the Dhamma from me, you have a duty to live that Dhamma, and the duty is kind of special. You can take students of your own in a very soft way, not in a formalized way, uh, but not charging them. But you don't take them as students, rather, they will come to you. So if your friends ask you, why are you so happy all the time? Christina, you're just such a joy to be around. How is that possible? And then you can say, oh, well, I've got some Dharma I can talk to you about. Maybe you can have some of that joy too. Or the other way of talking about it is paying it forward as opposed to paying it back. And we do that in our society in the form of parents will raise their children not expecting the children to take care of them, but rather that the child's duty is to the next generation. So you have children, that child will grow up, and then they'll have children, and you parenting skills on to the next generation. Now, the Buddha actually said, when asked, why do you teach? He says, for future generations, for those who will come. He did not say, let me be, he did not say for the benefit and the welfare of all beings. He did not put that word all in there, but the Mahayana do. That Bodhisattva vow, may all beings be happy. Guess where that all is anyway, potato? When you say may all beings be happy, what all are you talking about?
My
What are
imagination.
all? Huh?
My imagination.
Yes, in your imagination, all is in your head. That's where all of those beings that you want to be happy. So you can make all beings be happy by just being happy. Don't worry, be happy. And you've got all beings happy. And so this is the talk that I have today is that this is freely given. The Buddha never charged money for anybody. In fact, he set up the Sangha so that the Sangha could take care of itself. And it's been taking care of it 6,500 years. Think about it like this. There are more Buddhist nuns and monks in robes on earth right now than all of the world's collected military in uniform. Wow. There are more Buddhist monks monks and nuns, 400,000 or more in Thailand alone. If the Thai government can support an army of 400,000 people, I don't think so. So not of the country's only got 70 million. And the United States, no, the United States, the West is slow on this, but India and China and many Asian places have hundreds of thousands of monks and nuns inside of their border. And guess what? None of them work. None of them have any problem with right livelihood because they don't have any livelihood at all. You can do the same. You have been told by your culture that you got to work to eat. And here I'm showing you that 7 or 8 or 9 million people on this planet that prove that wrong. You do not have to work to eat. It's all done through generosity. So that's what really right livelihood is about, is at the core of right livelihood is generosity. So, Christina, she's the wealthy lady on the group here. So she's got a lot of generosity to spread around. Everybody begin to think of it like that. You got plenty of money. You may not have but $10,000 in the bank. That's plenty of money. You may not have but $5,000 in the bank. That's plenty of money. You're rich beyond imagination. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about what it feels like when you're giving, that there's like a healing component.
Sorry, what you say?
When one gives, there's like a healing feeling. Like there's like a sense of, like when you are sharing gratitude or giving something to someone, that can feel like healing.
Attitude. And that attitude gives that feeling of well-being. The attitude is wealthy, feeling of well-being. Where the richest people in the world, like Elon Musk, for instance, right now, he has no well-being. He's a wealthy man. He wants more and more and more. He's got only 20% of Tesla. He wants 5%. That's the problem with wealthy people, is they're not wealthy in their mind. Can you become wealthy? Because wealth and generosity are kind of the same thing. If you were so full of Dhamma, it just leaks out all over the place. That's your wealth, is that you're leaking. You don't try to hold it.
There's a little. Yeah, some people though they give at the cost of their own well-being.
How do you know that? You're looking at it from the outside.
What do you say, from the outside? What?
That are too generous, they call it generous to a fault. That's an outside observer, and that outside observer is the skinflint. Saying, "Oh, don't give all your money away, Grandma." And Grandma is just so happy to give all her money away. And give that money away, Grandma. That money's mine. And Granny is just having a ball, giving all that money to all of her family and friends. And it would be wonderful if all of her family and friends had the same attitude about money that she does, And then everybody's going to take care of everybody, and nobody needs to care about money at all. Think about that. Foster the feeling of wealth and generosity with all of your friends, and then that group of people will never need any money because they got their friends. It's a different mindset. I know it's completely different. You have to have that feeling of we've got enough. Wow. And in our Western culture, even rich people will think they don't have enough. The more money they get, the more they want. They even get in competition. The super rich are in competition with each other, trying to get more money and more money and more money. So let's not be in that group of super rich. Let's be wealthy instead. And what is wealthy is the attitude that I've got more than I need. I've got excess. Let me see where I can spread it around.
Hey, Dhammarato, that just made me think. That just made me think about something. So there's this. It's a little bit. It's the same topic of right livelihood, but it has to do with like when you give so much of yourself to like your job and you become so committed to the work that like you give and give and give, and then there's this phenomenon of like burnout where you can't give what you don't have because there's nothing left in the gas tank.
That's an interesting word, burn out. The only people who ever experience out are the ones who were on fire for a long time until they're completely burned out. But if you're never on fire because you're generous and you're feeling, you've got your potato sack, nest egg or whatever, then you get burned out. You just have more fun with it. There's no such burnout, by the way. There are a few professions that are known for burnout. The number one top of the list is nurses. Did you know that? Did you know that nurses are the ones who burn out the soonest? Why is that? Did you know that during the COVID days that there were so many nurses that got burned out? Why did they get burned
Christina's a nurse,
out?
Dhammarato.
Right? And they died instead. Another group that have a lot of burnout is doctors. Others who have burnout would be teachers. But a big group of those who burn out are social workers. Why do social workers burn out? Is because the people that they take on as clients don't ever do what they were told to do. And so the social worker gets really ticked off with their clients because, uh, they just keep making the same stupid mistakes over and over again, and the social workers want them to do better. But it's the same thing with nurses. The reason why nurses get burned out is because people go to them to die. And you go to a hospital. I mean, in America, for sure, almost everybody who dies in a hospital. Did you know that? The only ones who don't die in the hospital are the ones who arrive at the hospital DOA. And the better thing to do is just lay here in bed and die on your own. That way you don't have your nurses and burnout. So the easy way to take care of that is don't care. Do your job and care for the person, but don't care about them. Because your people are going to die. No matter how good a nurse you are, they're going to die. So if you have the right attitude, you have right noble feeling of wealth, of the attitude of being wealthy, then you can lose a few thousand friends and still have a few thousand more. You got plenty. Don't think about burnout. Think about stop being on fire. Stop caring so much and just be happy. Go about doing your nursing duties happily. That would be the right livelihood of a nurse, is being able to nurse people happily. Ah, so why don't we wrap this up? I'm going to leave all of you now, and I would like it if you guys would stay and talk to each other about right livelihood for a while. Eric, you can turn the recorders off soon. Does anybody have any last things to say before I go?
I had something I was thinking about.
Thank you.
Yeah, go for it, Connor.
So you brought up that monk, or not the monk, the layperson who was a potter, and I had never heard that story, so I found it like really inspiring. Is that he was willing to live on very little, and that's what gave him the right livelihood. And it made me think that what can really allow us to have the right livelihood, regardless of whose shoes we're in. Like we could be anybody, so to say. Wherever we're at, we can have it here and now if we're willing to have less, lose what we have, and to maybe disappoint those around us. Like if we have like a family, maybe we have to be like the bum who maybe doesn't have what they want.
All right. So having what you want or not wanting anything, that's the trick, is to be able to live happily, not wanting anything. Or whatever you do want is really, really easy to get. Dukkha is well defined as not having what you want. And so if you don't
I like
mind,
the analogy where dukkha is like, or I think craving is like you have what you want and then you lose it, and because you lost it, you feel as though you were pierced with a spike. So to even have it is just the predecessor to being pierced by a spike. If you're going to crave after what you want.
yeah, let us say, like Alex, you got your motorcycle stolen.
Yeah, she gone.
Is that going to be you going to
Say
say,
it
well,
again.
I don't have to take care of that thing anymore.
Yeah.
I don't
I don't
maintain
gotta
that
change no
motorbike
oil. I don't
anymore.
gotta buy tires. One less way to launch myself into traffic. Somebody did me a favor.
So, whatever your profession is, Connor, when somebody comes and steal it from you, thank them. They've done you an enormous favor. They've taken it off your hands. You don't have to deal with that thing anymore.
There's a philosopher that I really like who says that when you lose something, don't think I have lost this. Think it has returned to the giver. And I don't think we have to think of the giver as God. We can just think of the giver as nature itself. Like nature gave us something and nature can take it back. And that's all right.
Well, the giver in that case was a member of Hell's Angels.
Hey, Dhammarato, I got a quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, when you had Kitty early on, were you worried about finances at all?
I have been lucky enough to have, since the late 1970s, I haven't worried about money at all.
Because of your social security, right?
Well, years I was a monk, but when I knew that I would retire, I knew that I'd have enough retirement that the Social Security, way long years ago when I made Social Security pay, I was making it at the maximum. So now my Social Security income is average or above average. And when Kitty was born, guess what? That's just more Social Security. So I saw her as an asset, not a liability. Hey, more Uncle Sam money I don't need.
Another thing I was thinking about, and I wanted your thoughts on this, Dhammarato, is that you said that there is no all, that this is just kind of like a Mahayana delusion. And I was thinking, there's sense in that, but also one way that there can be an all is in an expansive mind. So if we say the mind is contracted, then the mind is only what it sets upon. And if the mind is expanded, then the mind is whatever it can set upon.
Okay, you can use expanded and contracted. That's not a bad term to use. So have an expansion of a mind. Have a big one. Like the Christians would say, have a big heart.
And then we don't even have to say it to ourselves like the Mahayanas. We don't have to say, I wish if only all beings could be happy and well. We can just say, may all beings be happy and well.
We can say, I'm really glad all those people are so happy. They're already happy enough. If you don't believe me, go ask them. They'll tell you. Everybody knows got all they need, and everybody knows that. They've just been told, well, oh, you're supposed to have more.
Yeah, if you ask them at the right time, I'd say most people, they'll just say, at the right time, they'll just say, oh, yeah, I've got exactly what I want, before that thorn comes or before they see the thorn.
Mm-hmm. Don't think about it in that Mahayana Bao kind of things. That's not really the teaching of the Buddha. Look at it as the Bodhisattva is one who is determined to be free. That's what a Bodhisattva really is one who is determined to be free. Now, there's another Bodhisattva, but he's not really a Bodhisattva. He's a Mahayana Bodhisattva who is taking a vow. In fact, the vow is that all the other people will become enlightened before me. But what happens? Let us look at it as a gate. What happens when everybody goes through the gate except for the bodhisattvas? What are they going to do? They're going to push and shove each other. No, you go first. You go first. I've already vowed I have to be the last one. Why can't they lock arms and happily skip and jump their way through that gate? And who says that the gate is not an open gate anyway, that people can come and go as they please? The way that they talk about it is that it's a kind of a, you go from one prison to another prison because the gate's locked. When really there's no gate. So thinking about may all beings be happy is like saying, they're not, and it's my job to fix them. That's not the teaching of the Buddha. The Buddha is, the idea is that those people are okay. They're fine. They're not your business. Your job is to get the all in your own mind fixed.
That's what I was thinking. It was like maybe a form of goodwill. Like instead of really accomplishing that, just in the moment, if you run into a being, hopefully having goodwill instead of the intention of harm. So any particular being, just having the will, the intention within you, may this being be happy and free. I guess it doesn't have to be like an investment in their future, but an investment in yourself and your intentions to have them steered in a positive direction.
Positive direction. It's not a direction in that sense. It's here we are. There's no direction. There's no going. There's no distance to have. There's no gradual path. It's a sudden path. It's a change of attitude.
I see what you mean.
Change of attitude.
I guess
Change
like
of attitude. Yeah, you're okay right now.
to be steering is kind of just a matter of perspective.
Stop having perspectives. Just be okay. Already okay. You don't have to perspect.
Well, I guess that's like the right perspective to have, because that is also a perspective. Being okay.
Up to you. All right, folks. Thank you so much. This has been a delight, and I really enjoyed it. And I'll see you later.
Thanks, Dhammarato.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure that
Take care,
Alex and
Dhammarato.
Ivan and Mr. Bean and Potato and Christina will have some really insightful things for you to listen to. So I'm going to leave and let them take over. See ya.
Enjoy your rest, friend.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Yeah.